Sa Taguig matatagpuan ang Libingan ng Mga Bayani.
Bayani Road, Fort Bonifacio in Taguig City is where we can find the Libingan ng Mga Bayani. A brief history about the place. Formerly known as Fort William McKinley and first named as the Republic Memorial Cemetery. It was established in May 1947 as a fitting tribute only for the gallant Filipino men and women who brought honor to the country and fought for the sake of freedom and democracy. On October 27, 1954, late President Ramon Magsaysay renamed this place as Libingan ng Mga Bayani as a tribute to our 1941 to 1945 World War II hero soldiers. On May 28, 1967, late President Ferdinand E. Marcos issued a Presidential Proclamation number 208 that this area of 142 hectares is reserved only for national shrine purposes and then placed under the administration of the Military Shrine Services, Philippine Veterans Affairs, and Department of National Defense. On October 26, 1993, former President Fidel V. Ramos issued an Executive Order number 131 which states that all national artists and scientists of the Philippines were also eligible for interment at this cemetery. This facility is under the administration and maintenance of the Grave Services Unit of Philippine Army Support Group and Armed Forces of the Philippines. The main mission of this vicinity is to provide grave service to all qualified Filipino people. So these are the things that you will see once you enter the cemetery. There are 8 pylons, and each pylon has also different stories behind it. So the first one is the Heroes Memorial Gate. It is a structure shaped in the form of a large concrete tripod with 3 access ways and 3 pillars surrounding a simple glass structure. This is the first imposing structure one sees upon entering the grounds of the cemetery complex. The use of triads in design reflects, among others, the following. The country's main island groupings, namely Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, vanguards of the state, and the heroic attributes. The circle at the center of it signifies the cycle of life, perpetuity, and continuity of strength. The doves in flight over fire symbolize our heroes' sacrifice for our country's renewal. Next is the black stone walls, erected on opposite side of the main entrance road leading to the tomb of the unknown soldier. And just near the Heroes Memorial Gate are 2 12-foot high black stone walls which bear the words, "I do not know the dignity of his birth, but I do know the glory of his death." These words were quotation of General Douglas MacArthur made during his sentimental journey to the Philippines in 1961. The next is the Rifle Grave Marker. Rifle Grave Marker is a symbolic replacement of a cross in the battlefield for a soldier who has been killed during war. The purpose of this semblance is to show honor and respect to our dead soldiers. Next is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The main structure is constructed at the center of cemetery. This is the site where wreath-laying ceremonies are held when Philippine government officials and foreign dignitaries visit the Libingan ng Mga Bayani. The following inscription is found on the tomb. Here lies a Filipino soldier whose name is known only to be God. Behind the tomb are the three marble pillars representing the three main island groupings in the Philippines, namely Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Next is the Defenders of Bataan and Corregidor Memorial Pylon. The Defenders of Bataan and Corregidor Memorial was inaugurated on April 5, 1977 by Secretary Renato S. de la Vela in memory of the Defenders of Bataan and Corregidor during World War II. This monument was dedicated as an acknowledgement of their valor and sacrifice in defense of our beloved land, the Philippines. Next is the Philippine World War II Guerrilla Pylon. This pylon was established by the Veterans Federation of the Philippines as a testimony to the strong spirit and bravery of the Filipino guerrillas of World War II who refused to be cowed into submission and carried on the fight for freedom against enemies with vastly superior armed and under almost challenging odds. Their hardship and sufferings, as well as their defeats and victories, are enshrined in this memorial. Next is the Korean Memorial Pylon. The Korean Memorial Pylon is a towering monument honoring the 112 Filipino officers and men who were members of the Philippine Expeditionary Forces to Korea who perished during the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. Next is the last one, which is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Pylon. This memorial pylon is proudly dedicated to the members of the Philippine contingents and Philippine civic action groups to Vietnam. These dedicated men and women serve as medical, dental, engineering, construction, community and psychological workers and security complement who offered tremendous sacrifices as they alleviated human sufferings in war-ravaged Vietnam from 1964 to 1971. Inscribed on the memorial pylon are the words, "To build and not to destroy, to bring the Vietnamese people happiness and not sorrow, to develop goodwill and not hatred." In Libingan ng Mga Bayani, there are 9 burial sections. Section A is for former President of the Republic of the Philippines. Section B is for the government dignitaries and statesmen. Section C is for former Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines. For Section D and 20, it is for generals or flag officers of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Section C1 is for the Medal of Valors. Section 1 to 11 is for Filipino veterans of World War II and defenders of Bataan and Corregidor. Section 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 is for the active retired Armed Forces of the Philippine personnel and veterans. Section 13 is for national artists and scientists. Section 21 is the current burial site for active, retired, Armed Forces of the Philippines, personnel, and veterans. So these are some famous people who is currently buried in Libingan ng Mga Bayani. We have ex-President Carlos P. Garcia, born on 1896, died on 1971. Si Carlos Polestico Garcia ay ang ikawalong presidente ng Pilipinas. Siya ang unang presidente na inilibing sa Libingan ng Mga Bayani dahil sa kanyang malugod na pamamahala sa ating bansa. Next is ex-President Diosdado P. Macapagal, born on 1910, died on 1997. Si Diosdadong Pangan Macapagal Sr. ay ang ika-9 na presidente sa Pilipinas at ika-6 na vice-presidente. Tinagurian si Diosdado Macapagal bilang batang mahirap mula sa Lubao dahil anak siya ng isang mahirap na magsasaka. Next, we have ex-President Elpidio Quirino, born on 1890, died on 1956. Si Elpidio Rivera Quirino ang ika-6 na presidente ng Pilipinas mula 1948 hanggang 1953. Bilang Pangulo, muli niyang itinayo ang ekonomiya ng bansa, pinaunlad niya ang pagsasaka at ang industriya. And we have ex-President Ferdinand Marcos, born on 1917, died on 1987. Si Ferdinand Emmanuel Idralin Marcos ay ang ika-10 Pangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas mula 1965 hanggang 1986. Bagamat siya ay nakalibing na sa libingan ng mga bayani sa ngayon, bago pa siya mailibing, madaming tumutol nito at nagprotesta na ilibing ang dating Pangulo sa libingan ng mga bayani. Section C, we have General Alfredo M. Santos, born on 1905, died in 1990. Siya ang ika-11 Chief of Staff ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Next is General Arturo T. Enrile, born on 1940, died in 1989. Siya ang ika-24 na Chief of Staff ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Next is General Angelo T. Reyes, born on 1945, died on 2011. Siya ang ika-28 Chief of Staff ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. For Section 8, we have Guillermo Tolentino, born in 1890 and died in 1976. He is a national artist for visual arts. Next is Ang Kyok, born in 1931, died on 2005. He is also a national artist for visual arts. Next is Nick Joaquin, born on 1917, died on 2004. He is national artist for literature. Next, we have Perla Santos Ocampo, born on 1931, died on 2012. A Philippine pediatrician who studies on malnutrition and child growth and development, was instrumental to the country's fight against child malnutrition. Under Section 1 to 11 is for Filipino veterans of World War II and defenders of Bataan and Corregidor. Many of you have wondered why or kung bakit napakadaming cross ang nasa libingan ng mga bayani. Noong taong 2016, tinatayang umabot na sa 49,450 na ang bilang ng mga sundalong nakalibing sa libingan ng mga bayani, na ang 32,268 sa kanila ay namatay noong ikalawang digmaang pandaigdig sa Kapas, Tarlac.
Let's all